In our last segment, we talked about short-term fixes as a way to try and help the victims of Hurricane Sandy at least get a roof over their heads, even if it's going to an army base, even a prison or abandoned buildings, just something here. But the storm-ravaged sections of our area, most notably parts of Long Island, New Jersey, Staten Island, and Queens, they will never be allowed to go the way of the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans. What got destroyed will have to be rebuilt. Maybe differently, but it will be rebuilt. And now Governor Cuomo, he's looking to Washington for help, and he's got a specific number in mind.
We have suffered what we estimate to be about a $30 billion economic loss. It's inarguable, but that on the merits and the devastation that has been done in New York, that we're going to require a supplemental appropriation to really get this economy up and running again.
Across the Hudson, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, he's also looking to D.C. No specific number from the governor, but he did cite a very specific example.
And we're going to need outside assistance, like we have in the aftermath of the storm. And I'll be asking the federal government to do whatever it takes to get this job done. This is our Katrina. And I expect the people of this state to be treated with the same level of compassion and generosity that the citizens of Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama were treated in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina.
Now, if both governors got their way, what kind of spending are we talking about here? After 3 storms battered the Gulf Coast in Florida in 2005, FEMA couldn't even come close to covering the total economic losses. So Congress appropriated more than $81 billion to fix the damage done by Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, and Wilma. Then in 2012, factoring in all the early damage estimates and inflation, and $81 billion may just be the number needed in the wake of Superstorm Sandy. And I want to go around the table and have kind of 3 different questions for you, Anthony, politically here, before we get to the number and everything he asked. Is there a clear kind of basically pro forma that if you're a state official and you're devastated and you get the declaration that it's an emergency declaration, that it's clear who helps with what at the Fed level now? Do we have precedent because of Katrina?
Yes, and the governor Governor Cuomo should be commended for being the governor and asking for exactly what he needs, and then some. But the next step is FEMA is on the ground. They're helping the residents, and then there's a phase 2 of all this when we're talking about the $30 billion in the money, which is the infrastructure that they're going to have to deal with. You have municipalities like Long Beach, which are devastated. You know, they need something around $100 million just to rebuild. Where's that going to come from? It's going to come from FEMA, and it's going to obviously have to be another, like they did with Katrina, an appropriation from Congress. Luckily, you have folks like Steve Israel, who's a leader in the Democratic side in the House, as well as Congressman Peter King,
but you also
that'll be pushing for that.
The insurance equation, and I'm told at least that it's going to be different in our region than it was down in Louisiana, where those people got shafted because they didn't have the right flood insurance or whatever at the time. We believe that the insurance companies are going to cover more, at least of the household damages, not across the board, but there'll be a big percentage of coverage this time than there was down there 7 years ago.
We hope. Insurance companies that we know are notorious for being insurance companies, and there are still class action suits from things like Hurricane Hugo down in Florida. So that's going to be what it's going to be. But I would imagine Governor Christie as well as Governor Cuomo are going to be pushing extremely hard to make sure that the residents
of New York. And I want to get into how the ask went down with Dominic in a second, but Andrew, process-wise, you know, we were talking yesterday, it's not just FEMA, obviously. It's FEMA, and then there's the D.C. component as it relates to the legislative branch.
Yeah, FEMA can only do so much in the short term. For the long-term assistance, the rebuilding the infrastructure, that needs to come through Congress. Now, one of the first thoughts that I had was in the aftermath of 9/11, there was some fighting, and we saw it on the Zadroga bill, about helping, and it took a while to get that through. I'm a little more hopeful because the pictures are so horrible and so wide-ranging, and also Anthony mentioned the bipartisan nature of the ask that's coming here, not just on Long Island from different congressional leaders, but Cuomo, a leader in the Democratic Party, Christie, an up-and-comer in the Republican Party. You would think there would be more receptive response in
But Don,
Washington.
there's different ways it was asked, in a funny way. There was more subtlety from Chris Christie, where he says, I want to basically, my state be treated like Louisiana. Andrew Cuomo came out with a number. and he did the number here, not behind closed doors, but with an open microphone, the same week that the president's going to be coming to visit on Thursday. I don't know. I know a few folks that were grumbling that that wasn't maybe the best way to ask and the best way to do it.
It's a little odd for the governor to jump out there like that and preempt, if you will, the president of the United States that's headed here. But I also want to focus on, Richard, that with Governor Cuomo's numbers, it's not just damaged, that $30 billion. He's asking for money, billions, for infrastructure. Yep. And that's not going to fly right now when they're dealing with the fiscal problem in D.C. and all the other issues that are coming up. So the governor has put it all in one pot. And so, one, it may be a little embarrassing to the president for them to put a number on the figure, the $30 billion, and also to put everything in that one big pot. It's not going to fly.
This is an immediate number that New York has a $1 billion budget shortfall as a state. It's already at $2 billion right now that they got to resolve in their books here. So you're going to see at state levels, beyond what comes or doesn't come from D.C., you're going to see already. So Mayor Bloomberg already announced, I think it was $500 to $600 million that he's going to have to cut out of the city's budget here. So there's consequences already beyond the human, but there'll be budgetary consequences right now on the municipal and state level. But we're going to see, as we said, the president will be in town on Thursday, and it'll be very interesting what he says and what he kind of promises to a degree from Washington. All right, we take a quick break. But when we come back, Dominic talked about that fiscal cliff here. Well, we're going to get into it. What is it, and will we go over it? We'll explain here on maybe where each side will more than happily give in here. Stay with us.